What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out the latest action camera from Akaso called the Brave 7. So this is an action camera that's waterproof without a case, so as you see it in my hand here, you could technically take it diving and the camera would work fine afterwards. The maximum recording resolution for this action camera is 4K at 30 frames per second, and we also have EIS stabilization at that resolution. Now, the EIS stabilization works for most resolutions supported by the camera except for 720p at 120 frames per second. But let's be real here, nobody wants to record in 720p in 2021. And since we are talking about EIS stabilization, I think we should start by checking out some sample recordings so you can see how the EIS stabilization works on this camera. Keep in mind that it was a bit windy when I was filming those sample videos, so maybe turn down the volume before they start. So let's check out those recordings. And for our next EIS stabilization test, I'm just gonna run for a bit so you can see how the camera does while running. And I'm currently recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. Okay, so let's do this. And I also want to show you how the EIS stabilization does while riding a bicycle. So I'll try going as fast as possible. I'm currently recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. So I'll go this way, go right once again around here, and back left. Hopefully that doesn't run us over. And as you've seen for yourself, the EIS stabilization is decent but far from exceptional, mostly when you are running or doing some more sudden movements. And if I would be to compare the EIS stabilization from the Brave 7 to the GoPro 8 or the GoPro 9, well, this one is much better. But in all fairness, a GoPro is also double the price of the Brave 7. So decent EIS stabilization overall, I'm gonna say. Alright, starting with a super quick unboxing, the camera comes in a good looking box, and the first thing you're gonna find and see basically is the camera and a little plastic frame. Since the action camera doesn't have a 1/4 inch screw hole, every time you wanna place this camera on a tripod or on anything like that, you're gonna have to use that plastic frame, because otherwise there is no way of mounting this on a tripod. In the box, you're also going to find the remote control for the camera. From that remote control, you can start and stop recordings, you can change modes, you can take pictures and all that without actually having to touch the camera. There are 2 batteries and a charger for those 2 batteries, and on one charge you can typically get about 45 to 50 minutes if you are recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. You can get a bit more if you are recording in 1080p. But it really depends how you use the camera, because if you keep the screen on at all times, if you have the Wi-Fi on, you're gonna get less battery life, of course. So you can extend that battery life depending on how you actually use the camera. And aside from that, you're gonna find a bunch of mounts and stickers. So you can technically mount the camera anywhere, but again, you're gonna have to use that frame that comes in the box. The camera itself looks a lot like the DJI Osmo. We have one screen on the front and one screen on the back. Unfortunately, you cannot have both screens on at the same time. So you either have the front screen or the back screen. To turn on the front screen, you basically have to hold this button down for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then it switches to the front screen. When you're done with that, you do the same, and then it switches to the back screen. The glass covering the lens here is also removable, so I'm not sure if they're gonna have some filters in the future or something, but this is removable and basically replaceable. Aside from that, the camera is made out of this kind of rubberized plastic. It does feel like a GoPro quite a bit. At the top we have one button, we have a couple of buttons on the side. On the other side we have a little plastic door, and if you remove that you can install the SD card. Supposedly this action camera can take SD cards up to 512 gigs. I personally only tried a 64 gig SD card with it, but you should be able to use higher capacity ones. And we also have the USB-C charging port, and at the bottom we have another plastic door that if you open you can remove the battery. The screen on the back is also a touch screen, but it doesn't have adjustable brightness. So as you're seeing it now, that's the only brightness available. It does seem bright enough to be used outdoors and to be seen outdoors in direct sunlight, so no problems with that. But keep in mind that the front screen is not a touch screen, so you can't actually change any settings from the front screen. This camera can also take an external microphone, but of course when you're using that external microphone, I have an external microphone from Akaso here. When you're using that external microphone, the camera is not waterproof anymore because you have to keep this little plastic door on the side open. So no more waterproof camera if you're using the external microphone. Now I have to say that I was kind of disappointed by the external microphone and by the internal microphone. If there is any wind wherever you're recording, you cannot understand anything from what you're saying. So very poor microphones, the internal one and the external one. So next I want to show you some examples so you can see how the internal and the external microphones record the sound. Alright, we have a quick microphone test to the Akaso Brave 7. For this recording we are doing 4K at 30 frames per second, and as you can see for yourself, I am riding the bicycle. It's also a bit windy, so you may hear some wind aside from my voice. But yeah, this is how recording with this camera would sound like. Alright, for our next microphone test with the Akaso Brave 7, I am inside the car. I have all the windows closed, so you should only hear my voice. So this is the internal microphone inside the Brave 7. For our next recording, I will be trying out the external microphone that I got for this action camera. So let's put that external microphone and see how that sounds. Okay, so now I've plugged in the external microphone. You can probably see it right here. I'm also going to tap on it. So this is how the sound recordings would sound if you have an external microphone. What you heard before was done with the internal microphone, but I did notice that a lot of action cameras don't have the best internal microphone. So hopefully this is an easy fix so you can have good sound from an action camera. So yeah, an external microphone with a Akaso Brave 7. So as you've heard for yourself, the internal microphone and the external microphones are pretty disappointing. If there is any wind whatsoever, you can't really make out the sound anymore. It becomes unusable in my opinion. So pretty disappointing to see that. I think this is one of the poorest microphones that I've seen on any action camera, and I had really high expectations from this one, but no, the microphones are just not great. Alright, for modes we have the regular video mode. You also have a slow motion mode, but if you're recording the slow motion mode, the maximum recording resolution is 1080p at 90 frames per second, and you don't have image stabilization. If you're recording in the slow motion mode, we also have a time-lapse mode. This is a quick example of a time-lapse that I've done the other day, and yes, it does look great. And we also have a driving mode, so you could technically use this camera as a dash camera in your car. Every time you turn on the car, the camera will start recording, and when you turn off the car, the camera will stop recording. So next I want to show you some more examples for videos that I recorded this camera during the day and at night, and so you can basically see how the video quality is. And once those are done, I will come back so we can talk about them. We are moving on to another 4K at 30 frames per second recording with the Akaso Brave 7. Once again, I am using the external microphone. You can see it right here, and I'm walking fairly slow. Now, there is a lot of noise around me. I'm not sure how well this microphone will cancel the noise around me, but there is traffic, there is construction, and so on. So yeah, this is how a 4K at 30 frames per second recording with the Brave 7 would look like on a sunny day. And we are moving on to a 1080p at 30 frames per second recording with the Akaso Brave 7. Once again, I have the external microphone plugged in because, as I said earlier, it is a bit windy. So I'm just going to pan left slowly. The image stabilization is also available at this resolution. And we'll walk straight towards that building. So yeah, this is how 1080p at 30 frames per second recording with the Akaso Brave 7 would look like. Alright, and we're moving on to another quick recording, but this time around I am filming inside the car, as you can probably see for yourself. And once again, we are recording in 4K at 30 frames per second, and we have the image stabilization turned on. And I know that a lot of people also want to see how 1080p recordings look like. So what you're seeing right now is 1080p at 60 frames per second. And at this resolution, once again, we have image stabilization. And I am using that same external microphone. As I said earlier, it is pretty windy outside. So get image stabilization with this action camera at pretty much all resolutions except 720p at 120 frames per second. For all the other resolutions available, you do have image stabilization, and from what I'm seeing on the screen here, the image stabilization does work really well. For this recording, once again, I am using that external microphone that I showed you earlier. I find the internal microphone doesn't sound that well, mostly if it's windy wherever you're filming. Alright, we have a quick video test in low light to the Akaso Brave 7. For this recording I'm doing 4K at 30 frames per second, and of course I have the image stabilization turned on at this resolution. I'm also using the external microphone that I got for this camera, so we are not using the internal one. For the next recording I will be removing this and we'll see how the other microphone sounds, so the internal microphone. So we're just gonna walk this way. It gets a bit darker around here, just so you have an idea how this would do in the dark, basically in low light. And I can't really see anything on the screen anymore, so I think I'm gonna turn around. So yeah, this is how recording in 4K at 30 frames per second would look like with the Akaso Brave 7. And moving on to our second video test in low light to the Akaso Brave 7, I am recording in 1080p at 30 frames per second, but for this recording I've removed the external microphone. So what you're hearing now is actually recorded to the internal microphone that we have inside the Brave 7. We're gonna stop here for a bit. We're gonna pan right slowly and up a bit, I guess. And we can also walk this way for a bit. So yeah, this is how recording in low light to the Brave 7 would look like if you're recording in 1080p at 30 frames per second and you also have the image stabilization turned on. So the daytime video quality is probably the best that I've seen from any Akaso camera up until now. Definitely really good video quality during the day if you have plenty of light. If the image stabilization would have been a bit better, it would have been even better, but overall still the best footage that I've seen from any Akaso camera up until now. For nighttime recordings, as I always say, you're probably better off not to record anything with any action camera, because if you're recording with this one, with the Brave 7 or with the GoPro 9, you're not gonna get good video quality at night. So the nighttime recordings are just useless from action cameras, in my opinion. As for pictures, the pictures look pretty decent. Once again, they don't look as good as the pictures that you'd take with a GoPro or with a smartphone, with a modern smartphone, but good enough once again for an action camera. There is also an app available for this action camera. It's called the Akaso Go, and the camera basically makes a Wi-Fi network. You connect to that Wi-Fi network with your smartphone, and then you can control the camera from your phone. You can see what the camera sees right on your phone. There is a bit of a delay to see that live footage, but not that bad. And of course you can change settings, you can download whatever videos you have on the camera and so on. So an app like that could come in handy, but the app isn't anywhere as good as the GoPro app, because I feel that that's the best app that I've tried on any action camera basically. So to quickly conclude this video, as I've said earlier, this Akaso camera has the best video quality from any Akaso camera that I've tried so far, and I think I've tried pretty much all of them. So great video quality, but the quality from the internal microphone and even the external microphone is quite disappointing if there is any wind whatsoever. I feel that the camera would have been so much better if it would have got a better internal microphone, because with the GoPro you can actually record the sound. I feel that this one is kind of unreliable for sound. So there you have it, this is the Akaso Brave 7. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.